What's up, guys? We're just out here scouting a little bit and gearing up for some habitat work and soil samples and food plots and all that good stuff. So I want to talk to you today about how to create a clover food plot, because a lot of people want to do it in the spring, and it's very possible to do. A lot of people like to plant in the fall, and that's also very good as well. But if you're planting a perennial clover food plot and you want to do it in the springtime, realize that you're going to have some weed issues, and even if you do it in the fall, yeah, they'll get established while most weeds are going dormant. But when it goes through the winter, through the dormant season, comes back in the springtime, you're also going to have weeds as well. So here's how you do it when you plant it in the spring. If this is a brand new, fresh piece of ground that you're planting a clover food plot in, brand new, being that it's a perennial, I would go through and soil test it and make sure that the pH and get your fertility levels up, get your lime out there, make sure that the soil is good before you go to plant. Now's the time to do it. When you're ready to plant your clover food plot, about 2 to 3 weeks prior, I would spray that entire area with chemical, glyphosate 2,4-D, mix it up, spray that area, kill the weeds, existing weeds that's there. During spring green up, when you get temperatures above 60, 65, 70, somewhere around there, start spraying a few weeks before you want to plant. Then go ahead and disc your ground up. You already got your lime out, so you're going to be disking that lime into the dirt as well. Once you do that, you're incorporating that lime into that soil, so you're putting that lime at the roots level when that clover goes to start, gets established. Once you do that, you disc it up a couple times, you till it, whatever you're doing. You can smooth that area out with a drag or a cultipacker or something, because those clover seeds are very tiny. So if you have big clumps of dirt and you don't drag that out and smooth it, a lot of times when you seed it and then cultipack it, you'll cover those clover seeds too much and they won't germinate. So it doesn't have to be much. I've actually dragged it before, and then used my 4-wheeler tires and ran over it back and forth. I just overlap each spot. I've done that. I did that last year on a clover plot, and it worked very well. But you can do it that way. Obviously, you do this before rain, whatever. And perennial clovers take a long time to establish. So you're looking at, 2 months, before you can get up any kind of height on that clover plot. And once that gets established, gets going, you're looking at July, mid-July or so, end of July, it's going to be full of weeds. So when that happens, you have two options. One is, if it's not a lot of weeds, you can just mow that, once or twice, and that clover will actually outcompete the weeds leading into the fall, because weeds are going dormant at that time frame. If it's a lot of weeds, I used the product last year called Imox, and it works very well. I sprayed a clover food plot one time. It was around early August. I just let it go. And I'll actually play some footage, some trail camera videos that I have of the weeds in this clover plot, and the deer were still hammering, because deer eat weeds and there's clover in there as well. So I came through and sprayed this with Imox one time, and I waited about 2 weeks. I came through and mowed it. After this, it was a absolutely amazing, beautiful clover food plot. Deer hammered it, they tore it up. It had no weeds in it after mowing and all that stuff and spraying it. And it was very beneficial to use the Imox product. A lot of times when you do this, you don't have to use chemicals. You can just mow, and it works sometimes. Now, if you spray and then you mow and you have a little bit of weeds come back, you can just simply mow it again and you're good to go. Leading into that following year, you may have to do the same thing. You may have to spray it one more time with Imox, but typically after that second year, you can usually maintain that with just mowing. And then obviously in that plot as well, you want to continue to do soil samples each year. In the spring green up, you can hit it with some O2020. A lot of people are afraid to hit it with a little bit of nitrogen at planting, because they say, well, clover produces its own nitrogen. Well, that's true, but clover don't produce nitrogen until it actually develops a root system, and they develop nodules on the root system. The nodules is what actually produces that nitrogen in the soil. So how does a clover seed produce nitrogen when it's just a bare seed? It doesn't. It has to create the nodules in order to do that. So I always add a little bit of nitrogen at planting, because all plants need nitrogen. So to get going. And then once that gets going again, you know, hit it with the Imox and deer will hammer it. And clover, you know, do you need a clover food plot on your property? Well, it's dependent on the property and what's around you. You know, if you plant a clover plot, if it's large enough, half acre, acre, 2 acres, 10 acres, whatever, it's going to feed a lot of deer, and you're going to provide a lot of nutrition to the deer. Another thing with this too is a lot of people don't like to correct the soil issues. I don't know why they don't like to do soil samples, but they buy a bag of seed and that seed says produces 25–30% protein to the wildlife. Well, that's completely false if your soil's not right. If you have weak, you know, soil lacking nutrients and everything and low pH, it's never going to produce 30% protein to the wildlife. So the higher you can get your, you know, nutrients up in the soil, the more it gives to the plants, the more you can give to the deer. And that's what a food plot's all about, is providing the highest level of nutrition and availability to the wildlife. If it's not any more palatable than anything else in the area, why deer are going to hit it? They may hit it as a last resort, but it's not going to be very beneficial to them. That's the whole key in that, to be more palatable than anything around, anything that your neighbors are doing or whatever. And having that clover food plot is going to help build your deer herd. It's going to feed a lot of wildlife and everything. And if you're in an area that has a lot of ag around and they're planting beans, alfalfa, there's a lot of stuff around, a lot of browse and things like that, and you're, you know, only planting like a 1/4 acre food plot or something, it's probably not worth your time really, because you're not really going to do much for that herd. But if you're in an area that lacks food, big timbered areas, closed canopy forests and stuff, and you start popping in these food plots to produce extra food, then yeah, you're going to see a bigger reward than you would if you were in an area that already has tons of food. Where you lack food, the #1 indication is rib showing. If you can see rib showing on your deer, they're hungry. So you need to look at your property. You need to increase some sunlight, you know, to the ground, get some more browse growing, and you need to increase the available food on that area through food plots and, you know, supplemental feeding them with food plots. So that's how we're going to be planting clover food plots this year, and that's how, you know, you guys can benefit from that as well. And it's a good way to get going. You can do it in the fall as well. You can mix it with some brassicas. You can mix it with wheat and rye. I've done that many times as well. During spring green up the following year, you can simply mow that wheat and rye a few times, and then it'll kill that off, and then the clover plot will establish. And then also you'll have weed concerns as well. Just hit it with some Imox, and that'll kill off the weeds, and mow it a couple weeks later, you're good to go. So any questions about planting clover food plots this year, comment down below, give the video a thumbs up, subscribe if you guys are new. I'll see you on the next video. Thanks for watching this video, guys. If you want more information on food plots, soil samples, and habitat management, click this video right here on the screen. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you guys are new.